We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We got to add a little addendum to the show map today. So we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. It always has been, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since the government has been getting bigger. Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto Live. This is your weekdaily morning show. We bring you the latest on everything Bitcoin. In today's episode, we are going to be diving into a pattern on the weekly chart, which gives us a massive price prediction on Bitcoin of over $40,000. This is a pattern that I've been watching pretty closely over the last about 6 months and has continued to develop nicely. And this will slot in very nicely with the stream that we did yesterday and also the video that will be coming out tomorrow, because this pattern has a lot to do with the importance of Bitcoin holding its current levels of support and the importance of Bitcoin not just going through a massive flash crash down to about $20,000. If that occurs, then that would potentially invalidate this pattern. But if Bitcoin continues to remain as resilient as it has so far over the last week, ever since the Securities and Exchange Commission filed their first charges against Binance on Monday, June 4th, then we will more than likely see a major rally coming out on the just over the next couple of days. And excuse me, I said June the 4th, I meant to say June the 5th. We're going to be seeing a major rally on Bitcoin at some point in the next 12 months, more than likely at some point in the next 6 months. But the question on many people's minds, including mine, is will Bitcoin go through a major drop down below $25,000 first, or will that drop occur later, or will that drop just not happen at all and Bitcoin will be able to hold on to its current level of support? Very excited to bring you today's stream. Let's go ahead and read some chat. As I said, really appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. I just realized that my headphones are not plugged in, so give me 1 second so I can monitor my audio. Much better. There we go. You know, I don't just wear these headphones for show. They're for monitoring the audio to make sure everything's good. All right. Paul Zimmer is in chat, said good morning. Queen is in chat as well. Paul Torelli said good morning. Queen said Bedrock present. RC Moore said hello right now. It's a great song. All right. We've got Crypto Mini Bike in chat. Flare Staking in chat. Really want to see Lizard Gary get fired. The Beholder says smash them likes. Thank you so very much for all of the support, guys. Yes, make sure to hit that like button. Cool Crazy Techie Dude said good morning, Jeb. Happy #Finsaw Friday. Do you happen to look at what happened with GetHedge and if there is any similar sites you recommend? I don't know of any similar sites to GetHedge, but I can try and look into that. For you, my friend. Of course, there are, you can always kind of set up what Hedge does on your own, but it does, of course, involve an intermediary who is going to have custody of your funds, and those intermediaries right now are, of course, under attack from the Securities and Exchange Commission, because the number one company that you'd probably do that with would be none other than your favorite tried and true Coinbase, who, of course, is under fire. Let's go ahead and jump on over to CoinMarketCap right now. As you guys can see, Bitcoin's trading at $26,662. Is doing very, very well for itself, up 1% over the last 24 hours. Ethereum is sitting at $18.49. It is up 0.29% over the last 24 hours. And both of those crypto assets are down roughly 1% over the last 7 days. BNB is down 0.77% over the last 24 hours, and it's down 14.27% over the last 7 days, an average of a 2% drop every single day for the last 7 days, but in fact, it's been sharper than that. You can see in the last 7-day price graph, there's been quite the tumble. If we move on over to BNB's actual cryptocurrency itself, then we'll see that it has dropped very sharply ever since the SEC lawsuit was filed. Now we've actually got reports coming out that $1 billion has been set aside by Binance to fight this lawsuit. This very well may become one of the largest securities lawsuits in history, considering the amount of funding that is going to go into it. Ripple has spent about $150 million on their lawsuit so far, and they have been quite successful at holding back the Securities and Exchange Commission, dragging it out, pointing out the way that the SEC was acting that is unfair. Binance is a much larger player than Ripple ever could hope to be. And so this is not a fight that the SEC is going to be able to win easily. This is a fight that they're going to have to really slug through. And frankly, I don't know if Gary Gensler and the Securities and Exchange Commission have the determination to actually make this happen. Now, as far as the Binance chart is concerned, of course, I'm sure you guys are curious about it. Binance did drop sharply, and it fell below this uptrending level of support right here, and it fell down to this longer-term uptrending level of support right here, as well as support at the $260 mark. $260 is basically the floor price that the Binance market has been trading around over the last year and change, basically, the last 2.5 years, ever since Binance originally during the 2020 and 2021 bull market shot up here to $710. If you guys remember, Binance dropped during the pandemic crash down to $6.40 before rallying 10,000% in 400 days to $10,391. That was the rally that made Binance tens of billions of dollars, put them on the map as the largest cryptocurrency exchange in the entire industry. They, of course, made a lot of money from that. Now Binance Coin is struggling. And of course, with Binance having some of their funds in Binance Coin, they're certainly not feeling too good with the fact that Binance has dropped so sharply. Unlike Bitcoin, BNB has not recovered at all. BNB has dropped 17.6%, and it has stayed at that level. Looking back at Bitcoin briefly, you can see that Bitcoin fell just for a little while. It fell pretty sharply, about 7%, 6 to 7% in the span of 24 hours, more like in the span of just a few hours. But then the very next day, we had a bullish engulfing candlestick formation, and we are generally trending to the downside. We have a couple of green candlesticks here. This red candlestick is really outweighing any of the gains we've made over the last 2 days. But generally speaking, Bitcoin is more or less in the same range that it was in anyway before the SEC lawsuit was filed. On Friday, last Friday, we were sitting at $26,800. Right now, Bitcoin is sitting 0.8% lower than that at $26,600. All of the volatility of the last week has not really done much at all to the cryptocurrency market. If you just kind of block out these, areas right here, the background, let's just go ahead and make that 100% 0% opacity. The other way around. I apologize. Let's turn around and make that 100%. You can see if you just block that out that the Bitcoin market is pretty much in the exact same place that it was. Bitcoin hasn't done a whole lot as far as the corrective movement is concerned because Bitcoin is not in the crosshairs right now. Binance, Coinbase, and Changpeng Zhao, and about 67 other altcoins are in the crosshairs right now. Pretty much the entire cryptocurrency industry, besides Bitcoin and Ethereum, are under fire right now. Those are for two separate reasons. Let's break those down briefly, and then we'll move on to looking at the technical analysis of Bitcoin. And then we'll also talk about that pattern that gives a $40,000 price prediction, and we'll talk about whether or not that will come to pass. All right. First and foremost, let's discuss why Bitcoin and Ethereum have not come under fire, because we haven't spoken on that very much here on the channel just yet. Bitcoin has not come under extremely heavy fire because Bitcoin is not a security, and good luck defining it as one. The founder is anonymous. The development community is completely decentralized, and the developments that are created have to be agreed upon by nearly 80% consensus by the miners to allow for passage of the block of the BIP, the Bitcoin improvement proposal. And so when you have that level of decentralization, core critical decentralization, there's not even any one person at the top, then it's very difficult to make the argument under the Howey test, the second part of the Howey test, that Bitcoin is a common enterprise. You know, the Howey test is an investment of money in a common enterprise with the expectation of profit, etc. The second part of the Howey test, there's 4 components. It says a common enterprise. It's nigh impossible to argue that Bitcoin is a common enterprise. When you get to something like Cardano, or you get to something like Ethereum, when you get to something like Solana, it's very easy to argue that there's a common enterprise because there's a foundation behind the cryptocurrency. So it kind of makes sense that you could apply the Howey test in that way. What doesn't make sense to me is why we're applying the Howey test in that way. For example, let me just give you a bit of an analogy to explain. It makes sense that if there is a pond that every once in a while might have an alligator in it, that you would have a sign that says no swimming. What doesn't make sense is throwing the lifeguard in jail if the lifeguard goes in and saves somebody because they're drowning. Let me just kind of connect the dots there. It makes sense to put some rules in place. What doesn't make sense is to apply the rules in a stupid way. Applying the Howey test to the cryptocurrency space makes no sense because the cryptocurrency space is not the securities market. The Howey test is designed for stocks. It's designed for investment contracts and companies, and that's not what cryptocurrencies are. And even if you want to argue that they're an investment contract in the foundation itself, which they're not, then you still need to create different regulations. So that's why the Howey test is not even being able to be used against Bitcoin, because there's no possible way that you could argue that there's a common enterprise, and the SEC knows that they'd be barking up on it. They'd be wasting their time and barking up the wrong tree with that. Now, as far as the reason that they haven't come after Ethereum is as large as every single other altcoin that the SEC just declared war on times 2. All right, the market capitalization of all these coins that the SEC came after, it excluded the stable coins other than BUSD and went after literally everything else. It's already going after XRP for being a security. Then it also went after Cardano, Solana, Polygon, Tron. Didn't go after Litecoin. Why? Because Litecoin is basically a carbon copy of Bitcoin, so it makes sense they wouldn't go after Litecoin. Polkadot, Avalanche, BUSD, the Cosmos they went after. Chainlink, I think, is one of them. They've gone after a lot of these different cryptocurrencies and labeled them as securities in the complaints against Binance and Coinbase. But notably, Ethereum is not in there, even though by the same classification that they're saying that all of those altcoins are securities, they are not saying the same thing about Ethereum. Why? Well, it's very interesting. The reason, in my opinion, and I suppose this is opinion because I don't actually know. I suppose I am to some degree assuming, but this certainly seems to be the solution to the problem. The SEC has not declared Ethereum a security because Ethereum is so massive. Ethereum is huge. Ethereum is $222 billion in market capitalization, well over double all of the other cryptocurrencies that they labeled as crypto security assets combined. They have about $100 billion market cap. Ethereum's $200 billion alone. So that's the reason that they're not going after Ethereum. In my book, is that going after Ethereum is going to have to be its whole own case. Ethereum is a larger fish to fry than Binance and Coinbase combined. The SEC realizes that while they can declare a massive onslaught, they've kind of got to take their little war that they just started against cryptocurrency one sector at a time. It's interesting. There's been quite a lot of offensives declared this week. The Securities and Exchange Commission is coming after Binance, Changpeng Zhao, and Coinbase, and the Ukrainians. I'm not going to talk too much on geopolitics right now, but just a little bit of a side note because it kind of fits in with what we're talking about with these offensives. The Ukrainians have actually launched a counteroffensive against the Russians, and if you guys would like, you can tell me in the chat. I can give you a little bit more information on that later. Of course, that isn't related, so we'll leave that to the end if we do talk about that at all. So that's why they haven't come after Bitcoin, and that's why they haven't come after Ethereum. One day they probably will come after Ethereum if they are emboldened by winning these lawsuits or getting any kind of gains, any kind of concessions in these lawsuits against Binance and Coinbase and Changpeng Zhao. They make any kind of gain that gives them this confidence that they'll be able to go farther, then they probably will go after Ethereum one day. But if we're in a bull market and Ethereum's trading at $750 billion, it may get to the point where the SEC realizes that's just too big for us to handle. That's like trying to fight against Mother Nature because it's just such a massive industry. And that's one of the things I also want to mention here before we jump into our TA on the subject matter for today, is that Bitcoin and Ethereum not being targeted should bring you some confidence to realize that when we have a cryptocurrency that's large enough, there is strength in numbers. There's not so much strength in numbers against companies because the government sues companies of $1 trillion or $100 billion in market capitalization all the time. Government's used to that. What they're not used to is suing a cryptocurrency where you don't have anybody that you can bring to court. They don't have a lot of experience suing something that they're calling a common enterprise when there's no common enterprise to file a subpoena with. In theory, they could send something to Vitalik, but Vitalik luckily is not as in control as he used to be, and they could have, in theory, do the same thing to Charles Hoskinson, but Charles Hoskinson has said it himself. At this point, Cardano has become so decentralized, he's replaceable. He could jettison and Cardano would still continue on. It may lose a very important thought leader, but in his own words, Cardano would still be all right. Cardano has outgrown him. So these cryptocurrencies are so large, the SEC doesn't really know how to handle this because where is the mailing address for Cardano? Where's the mailing address for Ethereum? And good luck finding the mailing address for Bitcoin. You can't even find the guy that created the thing, let alone where to send a subpoena to or a summons. It's not going to happen. So that's just my 2 cents, my 2 sats on that. Let's go ahead and jump onto the technical analysis. I've got a chart formation I want to break down for you today. We're going over to BLX. BLX is the Brave New Coin Liquid Index for Bitcoin. Very excited to be using it because it gives us a full history of Bitcoin. And quite simply, I'm going to show you today what this pattern is. This pattern is an inverse head and shoulders pattern, and right here is the shoulder line. You guys can see it's not the nicest looking inverse head and shoulders pattern ever, but it is, in fact, an inverse head and shoulders pattern with a left shoulder here, a head here, and a right shoulder right there. We had our shoulder line. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Our neckline, we have our shoulder line down here around 20K. We had our neckline right here around $24,000 to $25,236. If you guys remember, we've been talking about both of those levels quite extensively. I've been saying that it's possible that Bitcoin could break 25,236, go as low as 24,1, but if it starts falling below 24,1, that's when you've kind of let the horses out of their gates, and Bitcoin could fall all the way down to 20 to 21.5. If Bitcoin breaks below this level that I've outlined here, then Bitcoin will likely fall down to a zone right in this area between 20.5 to 21.5. So I think there's a solid likelihood that Bitcoin will hold above 24.1. We gave you the contrarian view that Bitcoin could drop quite aggressively yesterday. I showed you how you could set up a trade for that. I still think that Bitcoin will hold above 24.1 unless the EFFR and CPI data coming out on June 13th and June 14th is just exceptionally bearish and crashes Bitcoin. That is possible. I think the whole market is kind of waiting to see what happens with CPI and EFFR. That could drop us down to 21.5. But if it doesn't, we've had a lot of the dark clouds clear, and Bitcoin will probably start going into a rally over the course of the next few months unless we have a United States recession kick into play earlier than we'd like. So the reason that I show you this inverse head and shoulders pattern is because if we just quite simply here do a price target with this inverse head and shoulders pattern, you can see that this inverse head and shoulders pattern points towards $39,500 or $40,000. If you guys remember from this chart right here, this is the chart that we did. If you'll remember, there's a video that we did. It's titled "A Clock Will Send Bitcoin to $50,000." I'll show you the video thumbnail here on the YouTube channel. I would highly encourage you to go back and watch it. That video is continuing to be relevant even to this day. If you haven't noticed the videos that we're making on the YouTube channel, I am attempting to ensure that those videos are relevant for many, many months so that you guys can continue to get value from them. But here you can see a clock will send Bitcoin to $50,000 Bitcoin price prediction. This video has continued to be vindicated extensively, and the video is based on this chart. You can even see this chart in the thumbnail right there. That box right there is that price target. I held on to the chart because I wanted to show you what it was doing. And the bottom of my price target for the end of this year is sitting, you guessed it, at $35,000 to $40,000. We predicted in that video that Bitcoin will go to between $35,000 to $50,000 by the end of the year. And so this inverse head and shoulders pattern pointing at $50,000 is not at all surprising. The other thing I want you to consider is that Bitcoin has been on a trajectory roughly like this. And in fact, if you want to draw it even more conservatively, it's been on a trajectory roughly like this, which means that if Bitcoin did hold this uptrending level of support, then Bitcoin at the very earliest, right around the middle, the middle prediction would be that that Bitcoin could get up here to $40,000 on into November. However, I'd like to argue that Bitcoin may actually go through a little bit of a slump, something like this, at least, if not even a lot more, where Bitcoin has a hard time over the next couple of months and then picks up steam. I would not be at all surprised to see the inverse head and shoulders price target of $40,000 take all the way until the end of quarter four, moving into the beginning of next year, or possibly even the beginning of 2024 to play out. And part of the reason for that has to do with this exact trend line that I just drew for you that you absolutely need to pay attention to. If you'll remember, we talked about how the Bitcoin market is sitting above 25,236. We talked about how it's sitting above the 200 daily EMA. We talked about how it's sitting above the 200 weekly EMA at the same time. We talked about how $25,000 is a big even because it's a quarter of the way to $100,000. What I haven't shown you yet is that Bitcoin at this very moment is also sitting atop this uptrending level of support. If you guys remember, we've had a few uptrending levels that we have paid close attention to. We've had one right here. This has been our resistance level. Then we've also had a center line level that looks like this. And then we've also had this bottom level. I told you guys when we started dropping from here and we fell down to this middle line, they were probably going to break it and we're going to need to come to the uptrending level of support. I don't know if I have a chart where I was showing that prediction anymore. I think I may have cleared it, but here's the center line, as you can see on this chart from a couple of weeks ago. But that's exactly what Bitcoin's done. It's fallen down to this uptrending level of support, and that gives you more context on why I'm saying that if Bitcoin holds that region between 24.1 and 25.2, then Bitcoin's going to be in good shape, and it can continue into a rally moving into the next part of the month. In fact, you can see here I made a prediction in a video, in our up next video, right over here. Bitcoin moonshot, Bitcoin to drop, and then moonshot $7,000. If you haven't seen that video, I'd encourage you to watch it. That's where this charting comes from. We talked about how Bitcoin could drop all the way down, potentially to $24,800, somewhere right in that range we were just talking about. And then moonshot $7,000. That $7,000 was representative of a rally all the way up to $32,500. As you can see, that prediction of a rally coming here towards the second half of June after the CPI and the effective federal funds rate decision is reached would line up very closely with this uptrending level of support. There's a high possibility that Bitcoin could end up riding this uptrending level of support and turning around, moving into a into an uptrending rally over the course of the next couple of weeks after we've seen the effective federal funds rate news and the CPI data drop. Now, if you don't know CPI data, EFFR, they're very important. CPI measures the inflation of the United States dollar. It is remarkably important right now in the news because it's one of the major driving forces of Bitcoin. A drop in CPI, generally speaking, is quite bullish for Bitcoin. The effective federal funds rate is the base rate that pretty much the entire United States market is based off of. So if the effective federal funds rate does go through a one more hike, then that will probably be quite bearish for Bitcoin. However, the CME futures, CME Group, is predicting at this point that we're actually going to see a pause. And if we do, and if I'm wrong, I think there's a pretty solid likelihood. I'd give it more than a 27.6% likelihood. But if we don't see a hike and we do see a pause, and we do therefore see the EFFR's insatiable hike towards 5% does actually come to its ultimate conclusion, and we plateau here after the fastest rate hiking that we have seen in the United States in over 40 years. If that does end up plateauing, that will almost certainly send Bitcoin into one of these major uptrends that I'm talking about here. And if we do end up seeing that pause coming in on June 14th, which is right here, Wednesday is when the news comes out, CPI drops on the 13th right here, and if Bitcoin's able to hold above this uptrending level of support, we could absolutely continue to rally. Now, one consideration I want to make sure that you guys are aware of is that this uptrending level of support is quite steep. In fact, if we were to follow this uptrending level of support perfectly, that would put us at $100,000 in October of 2024. I'm not quite sure we're going to get there that quickly. I don't think that Bitcoin is just going to hold this uptrend perfectly. I would not be at all surprised if at some point soon we break bearish out of that uptrend and set another uptrend, maybe of the same degree, but further off in the future, that Bitcoin will then go on and hold. That very well may happen. But what I want you to know is that this uptrending level of support right now theoretically should be giving Bitcoin the bounce that it needs to rally back up to 28,545 probably by the end of the month, and then break it moving into July. Excuse me, I need to sneeze. But if it does not happen, it's not the end of the world, because even if we don't hold this uptrending level of support, we've also still got 25,236. It's nothing that we should really worry too heavily about. So as far as the inverse head and shoulders pattern, keeping in mind all of this more recent and more near-term technical analysis, is it likely that we will see a $40,000 Bitcoin as a result of that inverse head and shoulders pattern? Well, it's almost a little bit inevitable, because if Bitcoin is going into a bull market, eventually we're going to get to $40,000. That's a level that we're absolutely going to have to cross through to get all the way to all-time high at 70. So this inverse head and shoulders pattern is almost guaranteed to happen so long as Bitcoin stays in any kind of bull market. The question, I suppose, that's really on the table is whether or not Bitcoin will get there by the end of the year. And the answer to that, I think, has a lot to do with the analysis that we just did. If you look back at the chart here, you can see that following this uptrending level of support, if we did follow it perfectly, would put us at $40,000 come November of 2023. I believe that that will be a little bit aggressive at this point with how much time we've spent trading sideways. This was a healthy correction, but it, of course, has kind of kicked the rally down the road a month or two. I'm in the boat that this uptrending level of support, as helpful as it has been, will actually end up breaking, and we'll end up having to fall through it, maybe trade sideways a little bit, and we'll start moving into a rally, and we'll be approaching $24,000 towards the end of the year. I wouldn't be surprised if it took till January to actually hit $24,000. I've come down on my price targets just a little bit. I'm still looking at $35,000 to $50,000 by the end of the year, but now I'm saying, okay, maybe $35,000 to $50,000 by January, February. Maybe we'll be trading at that, 30, 33 to 37 region by the end of the year. And then as the bull market approaches, with the halving event coming up in next April, then that's where we'll get that nitrous that we need to kick this rally into high gear and start moving on towards higher highs. Of course, we've also got these lawsuits against Binance and against Coinbase hanging over our heads, and we're going to need a couple of weeks to see how that's really going to have a long-term impact on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. You see, we're still coming out of a bear market, and so whenever there's FUD, the FUD typically is very strong. People feel it viscerally. They feel the FUD and they say, oh my goodness, this is just awful. When you're in a bull market, this is another principle of technical analysis that you guys need to know. Whenever you're in a bull market, there is a very strong sense that FOMO leads to the upside. If there's good news, it's very strong. If there's bad news, it's not very strong. If you're in a bear market, bad news is very strong and good news is not very strong. Right now, we're kind of in that transition. So bad news is still a little bit stronger than good news. Even if it's like the same degree of strength, you can almost, if you're a gamer, you can think of it like a percentage modifier, right? FOMO has a negative 25% modifier right now, and FUD has a 150% modifier. It's 50% more strong, and FOMO is 25% weaker, which means that the cards are stacked against us a little bit, where if we have a week where we have exactly as much FOMO, exactly as much FUD, the FUD's going to end up winning out because people are skeptical. That sense of skepticism means that if they see a good article and a bad article, they're more tempted to look at it as a glass half empty situation, where rather than saying, hey, we already have a track record of a year and a half of growth, we're already going parabolic, we're already near all-time high. If I see bullish news, I'm going to tunnel vision on that during this kind of transition where everybody's like, okay, are we actually going into a bull market? Are we not? Then that's where they're going to tunnel vision on the bearish news, especially when it's as powerful as the Securities and Exchange Commission coming after Coinbase, Binance, and Changpeng Zhao. So with all of that said, is $40,000 going to be hit by the end of this year? I absolutely believe that it will be hit in the next 12 months. So in the next year, I do believe that it will be hit. Will it be hit in this calendar year? Because again, that's the real question. I'm not quite sure. I think it may take until Q1 because many times when you're going through the pre-halving phase of the bull market, as we're starting to enter right now, that being the phase of the bull market, the first year of the bull market, which almost always starts about exactly a year before the halving event, that pre-halving phase of the bull market oftentimes is quite shallow. For example, if we look at the bull market that started here in 2019, the first period of this market was a lot more shallow than the period that came after the halving. You can see the difference here. Similarly, over here, we saw that there was the bull market that came in, the halving event that took place right around here. If we just show you with the rays here, you can see that the trend angle was like this before the halving. It was more like that after the halving. You can see the inclination of the market picks up after the halving event has occurred. So it would not be a shock to me at all if Bitcoin's trend ended up being something like this until the halving, and then it ended up being something like this post-halving. If that's the case, then it may take a little bit longer to hit the price targets that we've discussed, especially considering our halving event is coming in April of next year. We're still almost 10 months away from that halving event. So are we going to hit $40,000 as a result of this inverse head and shoulders pattern? I give that like a 95% because so long as Bitcoin ever goes back to all-time high, then yes, we're going to hit that level. And by the way, that inverse head and shoulders pattern shows up on the reversal from bear market to bull market. So that head and shoulders pattern is going to be partially responsible. It's going to get some of the credit for that kind of rally if we do see that occur. That being said, so long as we go back to $40,000, it will, of course, be vindicated. So therefore, as I said, the real question comes down to whether or not we're going to see that happen by the end of the year. I think there's a greater than not chance that we'll be trading at $35,000 to $40,000 by year's end, but I would give it probably a 40% likelihood that it will take until Q1 of next year to see $40,000 being hit. All right, let's go ahead and read some chat. Today is Finsaw Friday. I love spending the last few minutes here on the stream because we go for 45 minutes, 10 a.m. to 10:45. I love spending the last few minutes just interacting with you guys, taking some questions and answers. And today is Friday, which means today is Finsaw Friday. If you guys don't know, the vision of what we're doing here is I want to teach people how to live financially sovereign. That's the vision of what we do with everything we do here at the company, here at the channel. Here's our educational products with the reading materials that we're going to be hopefully coming out with at some point in the future. The vision of what we're doing here is to help you guys live financially sovereign. That's what I want to do. I want you guys to live in a financially sovereign way. But what does that mean? Financial sovereignty very simply means having control over your money rather than your money having control over you. You know, I was just talking to the director of the preschool our son goes to, and she's an entrepreneur. She had a career, I think, as an educator, and then she went and started a preschool for a church and ended up grossing over $1 million. She left, started her own preschool. And so now she's about to triple the amount of square footage she has. Very exciting news. And I was talking to her, and I was telling her about the message of Finsaw, and she's somebody who's much more senior than me as an entrepreneur. She's been doing this for a long time, started her preschool like 5 years ago. Now it is ranked #1 in the whole county. It's really a very special place. So I talked to her about Finsaw, and I told her about this concept of having control over your money, or your money will control you. And she's just like, yes. She was lighting up whenever I said that. And I remember I told her about Genesis chapter 1, verse 28. It says that we should subdue the world and have dominion over it. We're called to be the rulers of the world, not the world ruling us. We're not called to have our possessions controlling us. We're not called to have our money controlling us. We're not called to be the servant to our money. We are called to have our money serve us, but that we would not love our money more than our God. We are called to have our money serve us and not to serve it. By the way, if you're trying to make $1 million so that you can go buy a Lambo and get a big loan out on that and have a $6,000 a month car payment, and your dream is to have a yacht and have a $4 million loan out on that yacht, and you want to go be a big slave to debt, I promise you, when you get there, because I believe you can. By the way, I believe any one of you guys in this audience right now has what it takes to make millions. Every one of you, unless there's some kind of, disability or whatever like that, 98% of Americans have every single ability necessary to become millionaires. Every one of you. My question is, what will you do with it after you get there? Will you allow it to control you, or will you be the one in charge? Will you be the one that is a slave to $20,000 a month payments on debt to things that you don't need, but that you would like? It's much nicer to spend 20 grand, rent a yacht for a weekend and have a party and never have to worry about maintaining the thing and hiring a team of 5 people to make sure the thing is maintained and run correctly, rather than have a $6 million loan out on the sucker and then be a slave to that. I'm not knocking you if you've got $6 million and you want to go spend 20 grand on a weekend. What I will say is a bad idea is if you got $6 million and you've got a $5 million loan on a yacht. That is not financial sovereignty. You might be rich, but you are in financial bondage. You can be rich and financially bound at the exact same time. The mission of our company is to encourage you guys and to educate you guys and to empower you guys and to lead you guys to not be in this realm of financial bondage, because you can be financially bound with $100 billion or with $100, because it all comes back to this guy. It all comes back to me in my life, you in your life, my wife in her life. Now, of course, we're one, so it's us in our life, but it goes back to you. How are you living your life? Are you disciplined? Are you in control? Are you the one that is steering the ship, or are your finances steering you? I want to help you guys become financially sovereign, because I am so sick and tired of watching you guys, watching myself, watching the people around me live as a slave to their money and their possessions, because that is not what you were called to do, and you will never feel a sense of purpose in your life until you become the one in control. And by the way, you use that control for good, not using that control so that you can lord it over someone else, not using that control so that you can go and enslave yourself to debt, not using that control so that you can kick back and never work again and say, I don't need work ethic, I already made it. Using that financial control and using it correctly. That's the vision that we're trying to accomplish here. And if you have an interest in what we're doing here, we've got a lot that we need to do to fulfill that vision, a lot more than we're already doing, a lot of growth that needs to happen. If you want to join us on that journey, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that post notification bell so you won't miss a single episode. Really appreciate all of you guys in chat. Frosh, I'm so sorry, Frosh, said, most people that inherit money blow it. That's what I did. Let me just tell you, I've been, there's a lot of things that I've been blessed with, and a lot of the times I'm blessed with it, and I have my hands right here. I'm like, yes, I'm getting a blessing, and then my hands are like this, and it just slips right through my fingers. You ever had that happen to you? Have you ever been blessed with something, and then it just falls straight through your fingers? You know why that happens? Because you weren't positioned in a way to hold it, right? You weren't prepared to hold the blessing that God was trying to give you. There's a little proverb. It's not actually in Proverbs. You know, a proverb doesn't have to come from Proverbs. A little proverb that I've been thinking about lately that I read somewhere. It said, faithfully, God sent a problem. What? You know, how many times in our life And this, you might not think, Jeb, what does this have to do with crypto? This has everything to do with crypto. Let me connect the dots for you. Why are you in crypto? To get out of financial bondage, to have financial sovereignty. You might call it financial freedom. That's a similar word that we're talking about here. To not have your money running you, but for you to have money to run your life with whatever purpose and direction you've been given by God and whatever it is that you believe that you are called to do. That's why you're in crypto. So you might think, Jeb, you're not talking about crypto. I'm talking about why you're in crypto. So it has everything to do with crypto, because crypto is just a tool. Faithfully, God sent a problem. What do I mean by that? How many times do we have a problem attack us? And the reason that that problem is even a problem in the first place is because there's something wrong in our spirit. How many times do we get in trouble with our boss because we're running late? And boom, a problem shows up. It's traffic. It's the kid. The kid couldn't find his shoes. I couldn't find my shoes. I couldn't find my whatever it is. And a problem shows up. I couldn't get to work. That devil, he's just trying to stop me from getting to work on time. Maybe, just maybe, that problem was because you're not disciplined about where you put your things and you couldn't find them. Maybe that problem is because you weren't disciplined with your time management and left 10 minutes earlier than you thought you needed to, so you gave yourself a buffer. Maybe that problem was a reflection of the fact that you have not been disciplined in your work and it hasn't been seen 9 times out of 10, but the one time it gets seen, you're going to get in trouble with it. And God, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to call it, something is trying to show you that there's a deficiency in your spirit. Faithfully, God sent a problem, because you're supposed to grow in the area that would prevent that problem from happening in the first place, or at least you would be equipped to handle that problem in the right way. Financial sovereignty is having control over your finances and not living in financial bondage, because you can have $100 billion and still be financially bound if you don't know how to manage it. And what Sean Frosh is saying is absolutely right. How many people inherit millions of dollars from an inheritance? How many people make hundreds of millions of dollars on the Powerball and they lose all of it? How many people go to the NFL because they are 6'7", they can bench 400 pounds, they can deadlift 7, they are giants. They're a crazy good tight end, and they can't manage the money that they make. They get $100 million for being the quarterback of the Bucks, whatever team, and they don't know how to manage it, and they lose all of it. Now, I'm not talking about Tom Brady. He's pretty good with money, but how many times do people go to professional sports and they make $100 million and they are flat broke on the streets, filing for bankruptcy 3 years later? They were waiting for a blessing like this, and then fell right through their hands because they didn't have the spiritual maturity to handle it. And I'm here to tell you, when an opportunity appears and you don't capitalize on it, it is your fault, not the opportunity's fault. And I say that with all compassion, not in condemnation. It is not my place. It is not anyone who is walking in the Spirit's place to condemn you. Christ has not come to condemn you. It's the devil. I'm not here to condemn you because there's maybe a lack of spiritual maturity in some place. There's lack of spiritual maturity in my areas. Like this week is the first time in my entire life that I've been getting up at 6 a.m., going to the gym in the morning and thinking, wow, I really feel like this is something that's going to stick. You know why? Because I worked on the spiritual problem. I love getting up at 6 a.m. now. I used to hate it, and I thought I had to rely on my discipline. I had to teach myself to love it. And now I love it, and I don't want to get up at, 7:30, 8 anymore. I want to get up at 6 a.m. I want to get after it because I figured out the purpose for my life, because I know what I'm doing, and I know how I'm going to serve you guys. I know I'm going to serve my wife. I know I'm going to serve my kids. Those are my 3 big ministries. Not necessarily in that order, but I know how I'm going to serve them, and I want to get up early because I want to get after it. Because the spiritual problem. I don't want to hold the blessings that I am being given like this anymore so they can just fall through my fingers. I want to be like this, or better yet, I want to build a giant bowl. This is not the prosperity gospel for you Christians listening. It's not at all. I'm not saying you do the right thing, God's going to bless you, because sometimes if you're spiritually mature, God's going to bless you like he blessed Job, and you're going to lose everything. And that's what he called for you to do. Why? Because he ended up blessing Job in the long run, but in the short term, it ended up being a hardship. Maybe your hardship could inspire somebody. Maybe it could give you a testimony. You know what they say? Testimonies are a pain to get, but they're incredibly useful once you've gotten them. Some way he's going to work it out for your good, even if it takes till the afterlife to get it. I'm not preaching the prosperity gospel. I'm not saying that if you obey God, that you're absolutely going to make more money. But what I am saying is that if you're holding it like this, and the blessings come and you're not holding them, they're going to fall straight through your fingers. And I've had that happen with so many blessings in my life, and I'm so tired of watching it happen to you guys. I'm so tired of watching it happen in my life, and I finally found something else, and that is very critically, and this is the why behind what we're doing. Very importantly, what I found out is that financial bondage is not a financial problem. It is a spiritual one. Whether you're Christian or not. What I mean by spiritual is that it's an issue in here. It's an issue of your spirit. I'm not just talking about spirit from the Christian standpoint. I'm talking about your spirit. I'm talking about who you are. I'm not talking about who you were created as. You were created by God, and He loves that creation. I'm talking about the character element of who you are. Are you disciplined? Are you timely? Are you integral? Are you disciplined? Do you have work ethic? Do you have a drive? Have you found your purpose? I'm talking about that. It's a spiritual issue that you are in financial bondage. If you are, don't get me wrong. There are attacks that come. Government might come and steal your money. Government might do this. Other people might do that. I am not saying that because, a tornado hits your house and your insurance policy screwed you over, that it's your fault that you're homeless. That's not what I'm saying, and I no way want to blame anybody who has had something happen to them that is genuinely no fault of their own. But 9 times out of 10, if we are in financial bondage, it is our own fault. And so that's what I want to help you guys to understand. The why is very simple, and I will say it again. Financial bondage 9 times out of 10 is not a financial problem. It is a spiritual one. And I'm so excited to be here on the stream today. I'm so excited. For everything that we're doing here, because I'm finally realizing, where this is going to go. And so what I want you guys to know is that this is the dream of what I want to do here with you guys is teach you guys cryptocurrency. I want to teach you the tools. I want to teach you how to be financially sovereign. I want to teach you guys how to do technical analysis. I want to teach you guys how to trade. I want to teach you guys how to invest. I want to teach you guys how to live a financially sovereign life, because I know it'll help you. And of course, I'm going to tell you that it's inspired by God, because I'm just the messenger. I'm just applying God's word into your life. If you're not a creator, that's totally fine. But listen, the lessons that I'm going to share with you, 98% of what I say is going to be completely, as far as presented in a secular way. But I will let you know where it's coming from, because I didn't come up with all this on my own. I'm being shown this, and I'm showing it to you. It's in the Word. All right. Rick4962 donated $50, said, put on God's armor, love you all. Thank you so much, Yard Dog, for that donation. That is very, very helpful. Really appreciate you guys. Colin McDonald said, unfortunately, I never taught my children the value of housekeeping. Thought I was protecting them. No, I messed up on that one. Yeah, I'm realizing that. So that's something else I want to teach you guys, is that it's so important to maintain daily disciplines. It's so important to maintain daily disciplines, because your discipline in life is going to carry through into everything. And as you mentioned, kids, your kids are going to see it. My kids are going to see, if they come out of their room in the morning and they say, wow, this kitchen's a freaking disaster. Where's Dad? Like, did he put the dishes away? Or if they come out and they see for 10 years straight, they walk out in the morning and the kitchen's clean every single day, then they're seeing discipline and consistency in their father. I want my children to be able to grow up and say, I learned so much more from seeing my father do something right, rather than saying, I learned so much about what not to do. Children are always going to learn, hey, I want to not do this, which is what my daddy did or what my mommy did. But my dream, here, let me give you a little bit of an anecdote and then we'll wrap it out. I was running, we're at the gym, we're running a half mile in the morning to kind of get our cardio started. And I am so tired. We just got back in the gym. I'm deconditioned. Haven't been in the gym in 3 months. Haven't been in the gym consistently in 2 years. Just trying to get a lot of things figured out. But now we're getting a lot of the things figured out. It's really exciting. And I was running the half mile and I'm exhausted. I'm so tired. So tired. I didn't sleep well last night. My legs hurt because I did squats 2 days ago, and my legs were not used to squats. I haven't done squats in a while. I was doing a lot of weight, and so my legs are tired. And I'm running. I'm like, oh, I just want to stop, but I wanted to actually run the full half mile and not just stop and walk, right? And so I remember the last half mile. I also forgot my earbuds, so I wasn't listening to music. I wasn't able to get pumped up. I was singing a song to myself in my head, but I ended up thinking the thing that ended up helped me get through the last part of the mile is I was thinking about my son Malachi, who is 2 years old right now, being 22. And telling somebody, I am disciplined today because I learned it from my daddy's example. And I remember I said that to myself. I'm like, whoa, you couldn't pay me enough money to get off this treadmill until I've finished running this half mile. I am not stopping. I would rather my legs be in shreds And then I got this kind of unwise idea, like, oh, I should just run the whole, and I'm not ready for that right now, just being honest with my physical conditioning. I was like, no, let's stay consistent. We're running half a mile right now, not at 6 miles an hour. Let's just stay consistent. Let's not go too overboard, but we're going to finish what we started. And I finished what I started. And the reason was because I have a son that is watching me. And I need to give him an example. And if you're a parent, you need to give your kids an example. And if you are a child, you need to be an example to your siblings. If you are a brother or sister, you need to be an example to them. As Americans, we need to be an example to the rest of the world. Excuse me, not to the rest of the world, that's true though, but to the government that is very poorly, very, very bad with financial sovereignty. When people who has been a member for 21 months in chat said, once every few broadcasts you say something that hits deep and hard. You did that today. Thanks. Thank you so much, Win Peoples. I know you guys that are here to make a difference in your life financially or resonate with what I'm saying. I know a lot of you guys, and I want you guys to know I completely understand and validate that. You're like, Jeb, where's the cryptocurrency content? You're just rambling. I get it. I totally understand what you're saying. But what I want you to understand is that you're not in cryptocurrency just for the cryptocurrency, more than likely. 9 out of 10 of you guys are not here just for cryptocurrency. You're here in cryptocurrency for the sake of becoming financially sovereign, of becoming financially free, you may have heard it called, of becoming financially independent, making a change in your life financially. That's why you're in crypto. Let me run a poll, and then we're going to have to wrap it up. I'm going a little over, but that's okay. It's Friday. Are you in crypto primarily, however you spell primarily, to make a huge in your... Are you in cryptocurrency? I want to hear you guys poll on this. Are you in crypto primarily to make a huge difference in your finances? I imagine that at least 85% are going to say yes to this poll. I'm sure at least 85% of you are going to say you are in cryptocurrency for the sake of making a huge difference in your finances. And when I say primarily, it's either the number one or the number two reason. Are you in crypto primarily to make a huge difference in your finances? We've got 26 votes so far. We are at 30 votes, 93%, 94% of you guys say yes. Exactly my prediction. To the 94% of you guys watching, there's a couple of you guys who are just here for the memes, I guess, which is fine. That's totally all well and good. But for the 95% of you, out of 40 that said yes, I'm here to tell you, making a difference in your finances is not a financial problem. It is not a cryptocurrency problem primarily. Although it is, and there are practicals. We need to learn how to invest. We need to learn how to budget. We need to learn how to trade. We need to learn how to invest. We need to learn how to do technical analysis. Those are all the whats. The why. The reason that you are not where you want to be in your finances today is a spiritual issue. It is not just a financial issue. It's not just an education issue. It's also a spiritual issue. And when I say spiritual, I'm not even necessarily talking about the Lord Jesus Christ. I'm saying that there's something going on in this guy, in you, that is not disciplined where it needs to be, that is not timely where it needs to be, that is not keeping its word where it needs to be, that is not having a work ethic that's need to be. Many of you guys, the major thing that you're struggling with is you don't know what your purpose is in life, and you're not moving in that. You guys can see the difference on this stream when I feel purposeful and when I don't. You guys can tell. Let's be vulnerable for a second. You guys can tell when I'm going through the motions, and maybe I do a good job of going through the motions, but you can tell when I'm going through the motions, and you can tell when I'm passionate. There's a difference between walking in your purpose and missing out on something. And so for the 93% of the 70 people that voted that said, yes, financial sovereignty is the thing that you need. That is the solution, because the way God created the world. For us to be in charge of our finances, not the other way around. I'll get off my soapbox, but hopefully you guys appreciated it. All right, we'll read chat for just a second, then we'll wrap it out. Timely message for anyone who seeks improvement. Thank you guys so much. I saw a 70-year-old guy pump $10,000 into a Bitcoin ATM yesterday at a 30% markup. Yep, see, that's somebody who needs some financially sovereign education. Shard Frosh said no common sense anymore. Yep. This message hits home and lifts our spirit to new altitudes. For we do not struggle against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities of the air. Jay said, is quoting Ephesians 6:2, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. That is Ephesians 6:12 from the Bible for any of you guys who want to refer to that. Paul wrote that. John Doe said, gotta hope for a good wife or that advice won't work. Well, Proverbs 18:22 says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing. Now, of course, wives, husbands, we all need to grow in certain areas, but you want to make sure you marry the right person. That's for sure. I'm so very thankful that I did. I'm so very thankful that I married the right person. I thank God for that every single day. It's more work to teach the kids how to do the dishes right than it is just do them themselves. But by teaching them is the right thing to do. Yeah, the best way to teach the kids how to do the dishes every day is by doing the dishes every day. That's why I do the dishes every day. So, like, hey, Malachi turned 6, and I'm going to give him the dishes, right? Say, hey, Malachi, you know how Daddy's been doing the dishes every single day without fail, even the days he's sick for the last 4 years? That's what you need to do. You can at least help, right? How much more likely is a kid to follow you if you are not being a hypocrite? All right, I am going to have to wrap it out as much as I want to keep talking about this. I really do appreciate all of you for tuning in. And if you have not already, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit the post notification bell. And for the Christians that are watching, please pray for me because I am definitely realizing a lot of things that have been heavy on my heart. And I'm realizing how I need to share them with you guys. And hopefully you're seeing that. I'm so excited for the changes that are going on behind the scenes. I'm so excited for the direction that we've got. I'm so incredibly pumped to share with you guys more cryptocurrency technical analysis content. Don't worry, crypto's not going anywhere. We're not like pivoting the channel incredibly where we're just not going to talk about crypto. That's not happening. I just want you to know that. But we are going to be introducing more concepts that I think will help you in your journey in crypto and in your journey towards financial sovereignty. So this is not an or statement. This is an and statement. We're talking about the way to really help you guys have a huge difference in your finances, like 93% of you guys said. Really appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. I am going to have to go ahead and go, but before I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Oh, I got a real good feeling.